let us begin with our Orbiter Nightfall, aka Raven, aka what we steal an idea of in the game, and all his glory. So first, let's do, let's do a 360, little 360 spin. Never hurts. So you see the entire loadout and, how he comes and so on and so forth. And he looks amazing. The level of detail on this guy is just phenomenal. I'd argue it definitely goes above and beyond just a 30-minute, 30-minute mission level. Because just look at that. It is incredible. Literally from top to bottom. It is fantastic. And there is a little piece of flash. Get off. And go away. So, yeah, just absolutely wow. Absolutely wow. And that said, let's get into it. Essentially, we get we get several weapon arms options. These options get even more ridiculous and better, but for right now, let's de-arm at least that arm, because this one, because of that added butt, becomes a complete pain. Songbirds and the ridiculous missile launchers can come off, and we're left with our orbiter. Very, very sturdy, by the way. Like, wouldn't necessarily say he can, well, yeah, he can. He does not care. If you flip him around, I mean, obviously the foot will move, but yeah, he is more than rock solid. And that is fantastic, because the weapons, even though they're light, they are, these are ginormous. We're getting Gatling guns later, and they can all and should be able to hold them. So, real quick, let's go over articulation. Articulation is, we have deep and narrow shoulder sockets here. And, our standard fare bowl joint in this one. Nothing fancy, nothing special. Shoulder armor can pivot. Obviously the arm can pivot. Elbow has its classic AC limiter and can go forward quite a bit. The wrists, on the other hand, they can really only rotate. That is as best as we get with this. Pop off fairly easy, but stay in fairly well. So no sideways movements for these guys. But again, it's a giant core, it doesn't need it. Not necessarily. Satisfying click, and he can do just about anything you'd expect like a giant core to be able to do. About this much this way, all the way around. Now, because the socket is just a straight tube, if you want to get forward, you can get forward. If you want to get slight forward range, you kind of have to finesse it partially out, and then we can get a little bit of sideways movement. But for the very most part, it's designed to be more of a swivel like a swivel plus, you could say. But yeah, it's not terrible. And again, we're talking about an AC. So for a AC, this is pretty good. The head is on a ball joint, but because of how small it is and how tight that ends up being, we get our good range of motion, and it pops up fairly easily and sits on a peg, right, simply in there. He does come with his visor down mode with full and proper detail in that. And because it's 30 minute based, we do have our 3mm joints, and effectively, like, the head can store in all the hard points that he has, which I find absolutely hilarious. But good thing, always a good thing to get an extra head. Moving down to the torso. Torso is one solid piece on a pretty thick ball joint. Pop this out real quick for you. Yeah, pretty thick ball joint, straightforward. Boom. Legs get pretty interesting here, because legs have a ball have like an extra piece that becomes the ball joint, and then they extend out into the leg itself. That has kind of a polycap that can swivel up and down just a bit. So essentially, like, we can get a lot of motion out of these legs. That part is solid. So legs can really go on this guy. And again, nothing too crazy. Something, again, you'd expect him to be able to do. Knees are kind of double jointed, so we can get a kick out this way. Can go, both parts move around the knee. Feet are very good. Feet are on a very interesting mechanism here. If I can get them out carefully. So foot is on a giant ball that goes into a kind of double tiered socket. Front part of that socket sits on the ball of the shin, and then this guy goes in there like that. So feet end up having pretty solid level of movement to, like, really account for quite a bit of poses. And thus, yeah, this is a very, very, very solid figure. Moving on to the weapons. We get our Scudder. Nothing too special. Nothing too interesting. I would say comically oversized, especially if you're coming from Gundams. But hey, that's our armored core. That's how it does. And then for our default left-hand melee weapon, we have our pile bunker, and that thing is just enormous. Mounts on this wrist hardpoint, and yeah, he can hold it out, no problem. No problem. No, we're not having a slight problem. No, there is no problem. Now, it does have an open set of parts to it. And I believe to achieve that look, we pop the front off, and we pop parts of this back, or the whole thing. I'm gonna try to remember it without looking at the manual particularly. Yeah, you take the bottom clip off, you take this, you slide this guy out. Then we have a open version back piece that just slides on in there. And then our oversized front piece slides on in like that, and we get our open pile bunker. Same hard point goes into the arm, and he can hold it absolutely no problem. Fully extended out. Very impressive. Very impressive. And honestly, much akin to the Sisters line, because Sisters, those joints are fantastically sturdy. So, there's our pile bunker. Fully open. And then we get to the shoulder weapons. Everything mounts to these kind of standard, what they're making a standard mounts. They have little notches, and as does the back. So once you pop these in and really squeeze it in there, they kind of lock in place. Not too, not too much. You can still kind of wiggle them loose. And, everything else is just a pivot. So they can more or less kind of fold back. Weapons can fold back or fall over. Now I gotta adjust this a little bit. And then, do what weapons need to do. Point, point and shoot. Same with the missile launcher. That can go on to his other hardpoint on the back. And look absolutely fantastic with everything, everything out in the open. Sturdy, detailed, again, amazing kit for, I believe the MSRP roughly comes out to 3,500 yen, or if we're doing a local equivalent, 35 bucks, and hey, that's pretty good. Can't really ask for more for that price, all things considered. Last bit, that is another is going to be a main feature in most of these, are the thrusters. And each and every one has different ones. And they are on a simple ball joint, so you can just pluck it right out, replace it with whichever one you want, and yeah, fully modular. So customizing them once we get more released, and then as I will show you later with the Steel Haze in combination with this boy, makes it really fun. And that is our Nightfall Raven. Naturally, next up is our best buddy, Steel Haze, piloted by Rusty. So let me see. Let's do our spin around to this guy. Yeah, he kind of wants to bob a little bit, but yeah, don't be fooled by how skinny-weeny those legs are. They are rock solid. In fact, the whole entire AC is absolutely rock solid. Just like Nightfall. The jointing on these is phenomenal. And once again, the details just speak for themselves. He's ridiculous. And yes, I realized I put his thrusters in upside down, but Beauty of model kits. You do it how you like it. Chicken legs are, again, massive, all things considered, and skinny, and solid. And solid skinny is good, and it's always good in my book. So that's our quick spinny spin of Steel Haze. Not a huge fan of the design personally, but it adds nice variety, and contrast to both Orbiter and whatever they'll have upcoming, which will soon be lots and lots of these. So let's go into articulation and weapons. Articulation and weapons. More or less, same thing as you would expect based on RB. Hard points on the back. Modular weapons. Now, the interesting part on this guy is that the Ransetsu giant machine gun clips in very easily, although the manual does tell you to kind of spread these apart more so it can actually fully slot in, but it's really not necessary. It holds in there nicely. But the importance of that bit is that this hardpoint can hold other guns. And I will quickly demonstrate with the rifle from the option pack. Same thing. Kind of slots right in there, and ta-da. So essentially, it's a system. And it's a very, very, very good system. So he comes with his, Sam poo 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 machine gun. To put it in and take it out, you do have to remove the wrist again, just like all the high grades, and possibly some 30 minutes. I don't have too many. Then he has his signature ridiculous double blade. It's like our mechanical Darth Maul, if you will. And let me just get this out of the way real quick and how it works. We have the folded version. Actually, rather, entire thing comes out. We have our... Stop bouncing, guy. We have our folded version of it. And again, this can be moved up and down, up and down. There are 2 hard points in it. And then he does come with his glorious, fully open, transparent blue. Absolute glory. And that goes on. Let's see. It goes on as such. Let's see, which part do we retain here? Trying to figure that out. Ah, yes, this. So, this part. This comes out. This remains. This can still be on its, front setting. So the mount will be the same. But then this bit, or will it not be the same? This is, I'm not gonna lie, this is getting to be a bit confusing. As they say, should have read the manual. But we're gonna make it work. Or it goes on, yeah, there we go. So this comes with its own arm that you can move. And that can peg into the very front of this piece. And then all that fully extended slots into his hand. And then we get his ridiculous blade. Again, very, very cool. Quick note on, in fact, melee weapons like this, at least on him. a little bit unique to Orbiter because his wrists come with a open cover and with a closed cover, as you can see on the other side. And then inside of there is the socket. Is the socket you need. So some of these hands will open this way, or rather this. Yeah, the hands will open this way to accept the weapon, and then for him you can change out the armor plate to accommodate melee. Articulation, same thing for the most part. You know, small bowl head on a little standard neck and peg. So yes, you can in fact swap out heads willy-nilly, which is again nice, part of the whole idea. So we can do a Nightfall Haze, if you will, very easily. And then our standard fare. Same bowl joints here. Swivel. Arms, and in his case, it's an absolutely solid wrist. So there is no way to make it spin around or anything. But again, I wouldn't even say skinnier arms, but that's part of the design. Now, his critical flaw, and he had two, at least my copy. Can't speak for all of them. Let me clip this off carefully. And yeah, shoulders, yeah, just standard clip. His critical flaw that I already tried to fix and went a little too happy with it. But out of the box, this joint is so thin and it was so tight that when you would try to spin it, it would effectively it would break itself open and just kind of fall out. What did I do to remedy that? Took file, and I went just a little bit harder than I should have on the ball joint, which I then mended using first putty and then super glue, because wasn't enough putty, didn't want to mix and wait more. But otherwise, again, standard socket, standard fare, being a 30 minutes of a kit. So yeah, they can easily accept each other's parts. And of course, yeah, this shoulder pad looks a bit funny on him, but no problem. And arms retain their properties of motion and sturdiness, because again, Nightfall is perfectly fine in that regard. Shoulder joint is not made out of a potato. Like the Haze. So, moving on to the rest of him. That's how arms work. And like I said, well, they work. So they work, leave it at that. Torso, same thing. A bowl joint. A straight up bowl joint. Same size. So, yep, everything is swappable. Now, the legs. The legs are different on this one in that they attach via a bowl joint that is actually a separate peg and piece. So you can't, at least on these, you won't be able to easily swap the legs. But again, that's okay. Part of the fun. Part of Bandai getting you to buy more kits. Yeah, legs are amazing. His little thrusters have their own swivel. They can pivot. So it can look even sharper and more ridiculous. This leg just can fold almost all the way in like that, so he can kind of he can kind of sit down if he wanted to, and then go fairly good bit forward. This piece, the foot, the ankle, it can pivot, and it can obviously swivel. So again, all the range of motion we honestly need for these. And on top of that, them being super sturdy. So yeah, we can, you know, easily have him just sit down. take a squat. He can do squats. He will never miss leg days. And then just kind of pivot them out forward most, and yes, he can still sit. Very cool and very nice. Let's get him back into a better, slightly better standing shape, and then continue on to his weapon pod. Again, while it's basic, the details are just incredible. And then, of course, go into his auxiliary rifle, which does not have the annoying bottom piece, and will just nicely and easily just slide right into his arm, and he can hold it out almost no problem. I did fix that shoulder joint too, and it seems like it's actually cooperating with us here. So yeah, fully extended, no problem. Well, slight problem. Yeah, I will have to tweak him some more, get him back to like factory spec. Like, that's on me, but you know, even if they droop down after you try to fix what wasn't really broken, you know, even if they droop down, like, you can still have them hold the weapons pointed out. So again, very, 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 very nice in my book. I suppose the only other, well, no, he can still, yes, and he can still, obviously, he can hold the weapon, and because his melee blade gets staggered out, he can also hold it in the same hand. And at this point, we're going to see an issue of weight. But again, it's my particular example that I have tweaked. But let's see if he'll play ball. And he will play ball. So yeah, he can hold melee weapons, no problem. Same with this hand. If you replace it with the other arm piece, he can, you know, he can grab one of these. No issue, no problem, because that will accept it. Yeah, his wrist cap and subsequently the joint under it will accept that just fine. So yeah, this is Steel Haze in all his glory. The next, an absolute piece of surprise, was the little, you know, 30-minute pamphlet that, you know, comes with the usual, here's this stuff, blah, 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 you can customize it. Cloak is amazing. I do have it, by the way. I will definitely see how it would fit here. You know, ads for our usual suspects, obviously these guys. And the last two pages, are where this is absolutely at, because on the last two pages, they give you what you saw in the very beginning of the clip. They give us these sizable backgrounds, and these sizable backgrounds are, in fact, if it wants to stand, but I'll hold it up a little bit. They are the, you know, they're the perfect, almost the perfect size for these guys. Depending on, of course, how you point their weapons, because the weapons are long and hard. And yeah, that's a nice touch. So far, both of these boys came with one of those, you know, promotional booklets. So again, very, very nice touch by Bandai. I can't say much else in that regard. So yeah, there we go. Naturally, the other utmost important question of them all: size. How do they stack up against the things we know and love? So slightly taller than 144s, depending on the 144. Definitely a lot bigger than the 100th Valkyries. You know, much bigger than Bulls. Much bigger than Seed. And yeah, that's our rough size. Quick little fun fact. There is the master grade cow with its shed slash laundry machine, and also how the 1/100th Macross transforming kits stack up against master grades, because these two are in fact in the same scale to one another. So yeah, AC does pretty well. Now, of course, the real reason to get these guys, the extra weapon sets. This one is cool because so far it is unique to both models. Since technically, Nightfall's weapon set is going to be released as weapon set 2, in case you choose to get the standard orbiter and, you know, and Rusty, or if you just get Rusty but you want to have this set of weapons, that's how they're going to milk you for more money. In that set, we have giant laser rifle, the laser sword, and the 2 back pods. Laser rifle is unfortunately just like this, and I will honestly, I will really consider cutting off the ski, cutting off the ski on the bottom just to make it easier on the joints to swap them in and out. But that's the size of this guy, and this is the size of this guy, about the same. That slots in, and in fact, the little trigger has, has a little space for the trigger. That goes on, that slaps back in there. We have our laser rifle. No more ammo costs. Fantastic, I love it. Next up, the shoulder pods, 2 different ones. And the cool part about these is that they come with different parts for you to be able to make them either left or right mountable. So, again, in my book, A Nice Touch, the only thing you will need here is you will need to reuse the mounts from your base kit. And I believe, yeah, all the base kits will come with these mounts. So we can attach that as such. Pop this guy on here. Extend it however we want. We have that guy. Pop this one on the similar way. We take off our mount from the bird. Pop this on. Shove that in. And we have our other pod. More or less how it would be. And now now the exciting part. And in my humble, the reason to get this is this guy. Very unassuming at first, but pop in the alternate piece. And of course, we have a little off mode, our off switch, and then we get our laser blade that attaches by 3 connectors and just slides on in there. So then we have our laser blade to be, to be used however you want, either that way in like backhand configs, or obviously in the front way configs. Again, yeah, it is very nice. Of course, Orbiter cannot mount 2 melee weapons, seeing how this hand does not come with the mount point. But Steel Haze could. So again, it's nice to see that different kits do come with different, different pros and cons, as would, an actual AC. And that is weapon set number 1. Quick closing thoughts. Absolutely fantastic models, especially for the price point that they will be. About $20, or with the exchange rate, way less for the base core. And then, weapon kits are about 12 to 15. Very sturdy. Everything's interchangeable. He's getting snagged. His rifle got snagged. So I'll point it this way. And continue with the conclusion. Yeah. Modular, sturdy, cheap. Look like no Gundam, besides maybe some IBO and maybe like Archie from 00. So again, something else we wanted for a while. And myself personally, I can honestly say this is what I've been waiting for probably over 20 years when it comes to Armored Core merch. Something cheap, something cheap, something durable. Instead of, all the Kodo kits we've been getting who just fall apart on you, or at least the earlier ones when I tried them out would just completely disintegrate on you if you looked in their general direction. And that makes these absolutely fantastic. Because of that, yeah, getting their hands on them is going to be kind of tough in the beginning. Hopefully Bandai will just keep printing them like money, and eventually the supply will catch up with the demand, because honestly, everybody needs to experience these guys. And that is it, folks.